Are Nvidia 4090 owners panicking? I think so. I mean, look, this is a 4090 right behind me in that Be Quiet 901 case. It is the fastest and best GPU that you can get. But I'm going to be honest, every night or every day that I finish, I shut down my system. Even though in the beginning, remember when the 4090s were all like melting? We thought, all right, that was just a couple of users who didn't plug it in all of the way. But it seems like 4090 owners do have a little bit of a reason to panic. I really did think all of that was in the beginning. Everything was just, due to those users. But as time passed, if you guys look at like the cable mod group on Reddit, where they had the little adapters, it seems like there are many, many cases of people that have their GPU basically destroyed or damaged because they're sort of melting. This is something that, even though we thought was over, it seems to be a pretty rampant problem. Every time I open up Reddit, it's like another one and another one, another person. And these people all by now pretty much know that you have to plug it in very carefully. There are many factors that are going on here. At the end of the day, you can say that this affects every 4090 owner, even if their GPU has a small chance of actually catching fire, because exactly of what I said in the beginning of the video, you're going to be a little bit apprehensive to leave your GPU on all of the time. A lot of people leave their computers on, they may go do something else, but if you think it may cause a potential fire, you're going to be very reluctant to even leave it on for longer than you have to, and that kind of ruins the ownership experience. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. And to go a step further, the 4090 is one of the GPUs that actually sold the most the RTX 4000 generation. That was really the only GPU that people actually lined up for. Remember, scalpers were selling the 4090 for months after it came out. You couldn't find it at all. Now, the 4080 is a completely different story. We really haven't seen these, plugs melting with the RTX 4080. And of course, it's going to be a much lower power draw in that GPU. And of course, I don't think the 4080 sold anywhere near as well as the 4090 either. Even though it is a cheaper GPU, I think more people just figured it's better to go for the 4090. Something that kind of proves the point that there was or is an issue with all of those hundreds of thousands or however many models of 4090s were sold. It seems like Nvidia has slowly been updating that connector. First, I think it was available on the 4070. Now we're seeing it on some of the new 4090s that are shipping according to some news sources. So this is very interesting. If they completely revamped that connector or even updated it slightly so that way it's safer, that indicates that, there's a potential for issues with the original one. And even if yours doesn't actually ever have an issue, there have been a lot of people that say they plug their GPU in appropriately and then they have an issue. So you definitely don't want to wake up to a melted GPU, especially not one as expensive as the 4090, which starts at $1,600. That is significantly expensive in order to have these type of problems. I mean, even if you buy a $300 GPU, you shouldn't have these issues, but it's especially bad on a $1,600. So then we get to this point. Should 4090 owners panic? Well, I know I check mine occasionally, and like I said, I shut the system down, and you should do your due diligence because you don't know when this issue is going to strike. We don't have an exact cause for it. Sometimes if it's plugged in correctly, it still seems to be happening. Now, I don't think you should necessarily sell your 4090 and panic that much, but if you're going to buy a new GPU, the market is very, very weird, especially for the high-end GPUs, and then you have to ask yourself the question, do you really need a 4090? That's another big thing here. Aside from the little melting issue, which of course can be only select people that experience that unfortunate event. Now that the 4090 has been out a long time, I actually have some mixed feelings on it. 24 gigabytes of VRAM is amazing. The performance is really, really good. I guess you have to ask yourself the question, is the 4090 really worth it for the price? We can all agree it's a phenomenal GPU. Recently, I've been playing on a 27-inch 1440p Asus OLED monitor. 1440p, when I polled my viewers, that is certainly the resolution that most gamers are going to be using. Of course, there's a lot of 1080p and some 4K as well, where the 4090 will shine even more, or ultra-wide, but at 1440p, I found the 4090 actually to be massive overkill in most games that I was playing. For example, like Diablo 4, it just gets like 400 frames per second with like the max settings at 1440p. You know, that's way too much. That's beyond even the scope of the monitor. Obviously, at 4K, you're gonna make a little bit more use of that 4090. And then other games, if it's a really demanding game, take like Cyberpunk with, ray tracing overdrive, then you still need a 4090 at 1440p. So there certainly are situations where to get really nice frame rates, you need a 4090, but most of the time, the 4090 is a lot of overkill for 1440p. In fact, I'm even testing right now in my other rig a 4060, and at 1440p, in some games, it does surprisingly well. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. Of course, you have to turn a couple things down or use DLSS, but in general, the 4090 for the price, it is really overkill. Depending on the game that you want to play, even some of the new releases, it could certainly be a little bit of a stretch. I'm not saying you need to use a 4060, but if you can find a discounted like 4080 or even a 4070 Ti, which I went against really hard when it came out, but if it's really discounted, the 12 gigabytes of VRAM won't be nearly an issue if you can, manage at 1440p as much as it is at like 4K. But anyway, at 4K, then definitely the 4090 is useful. My point is that the 4090 is a great GPU, but it has these little weird things. Now, the new updated connector, if that doesn't have any issues at all, then of course that opens the way again so you can have a trouble-free and stress-free experience with an RTX 4090. But as of right now, and I know I have to like look over my shoulder to make sure it isn't like catching fire, 4090 owners, even though you're most likely going to be safe, you do have that in the back of your mind. That's just the reality. And that takes some of the fun out of having a really powerful rig. You got to just like shut it down all the time or be worried about it. It certainly is a cause for concern. So let me know if you have a 4090, if you're panicking, or if you don't have a 4090 and you're laughing at 4090 owners, that's okay too. Let me know what you think. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.